Welcome to another episode of the AI Files, where we explore the fascinating world of artificial intelligence and its impact on education. I'm your host Corey Gill, and we have a special guest today, Jennifer Bedford. Goes by Jen, and Jen works with the college's MAD faculty. That's Media Arts and Design, not the angry people. And she's involved in a lot of stuff. So I would really rather let Jen kind of introduce herself than try and do justice. So Jen, why don't you tell us a bit about yourself?
My name is Jennifer Bedford, and I am a faculty member in media art and design. Not only do I teach, I am the program coordinator for the film and motion design program here at Durham, and I am the MAD research coordinator. I also have a focus on international education. So I just got back from Guatemala from Fall Reading Week, and it was a faculty-led classroom abroad in Guatemala teaching storytelling. So I keep busy to stay out of trouble, but I also love what I do, and I love that my work is so varied at Durham.
Excellent. And I gotta account for that, everybody. As I walk through the halls in Durham College, I bump into Jen in every part of the actual facility. So as a matter of fact, I found out that she uses AI because I was walking down the L wing hallway, and there was an image up on the projector. I kind of looked in, and Jen's like, "Corey, here." I kind of came in. We started talking immediately about this whole classroom project that was going on using AI. And so, Jen, it's probably a great place to start. Why don't we talk a little bit about how you first started integrating AI into the classroom and maybe kind of where it's gone from there?
First off and foremost, I am a tech geek. I love technology. I'm fascinated by it, and I'm just amazed at how much technology has exploded in the last 25 years. And so when AI first became a thing, especially generative AI, as an educator, I thought, hey, here's an opportunity to teach the next generation of storytellers how to use this technology and how it can improve their life. Um, and unlocking their creative potential. But also because I am a geek, I also like to test what the limitations of the software is or the learning model. And
Perfect.
so I really began experimenting with generative AI tools like Adobe Firefly, which just came out of beta last winter, DALL-E, Midjourney, and others to experiment to see what the potential of this software was and how I could integrate it within the curriculum of the photography and video production programs. I also have that in the film and motion design programs. And as educators, how do we train? We train the future. So why not jump in and start learning?
I like that we train the future. I gotta remember that one, right? And so we have had some conversations about what you've been doing, especially in the media fundamentals and the motion design programs. So I'm very interested in how you use those AI tools we talked about in those programs because it sounds like you get a chance to empower yourself, but also empower the students, and I think that's worth exploring.
Agreed. I think AI really aligns beautifully with the learning outcomes in programs like film and motion design, video production, photography. And I was really inspired by its ability to create high-level graphics and allow students to test the limitations. Of course, when I first integrated this into the classroom, geez, almost 3 years ago, hands were a real issue with AI, and so we noted that. And but it was again this inspiration of this tool and not really knowing what was going to be generated. It was all new and fresh and exciting. And so again, to demystify what the tools are, I teach a lot of software, and often students get apprehensive, folks in general get apprehensive about learning a new piece of software. And so I integrated it in such a way in the curriculums that not only were they generating images, but then they were to go out and use their tools. So, for example, in the photography program, they're using their cameras and they're using lights and they're using people to replicate what AI had generated, specifically looking at lighting patterns. So, lighting patterns are what we use in the studios to make folks look great. Currently, I have no lighting pattern. I'm sitting in a closet
Fair
in
enough.
the L wing. However, often if you look at professional photographs and portraits of people, you can see that there is lighting design. And so I thought this was a really interesting and unique way to engage students, not only how to talk about prompt engineering and how to craft imagery that you wanted to see, while testing limitations, but then practicing their skills in the studio, working with people and working with cameras. So I just saw the potential of this transformative role in student learning and just grabbed it. And I've been running with it ever since.
But and it's great. I like what you brought up there, and I just kind of want to highlight that for anyone listening that it's an interesting play on it. We always talk about how AI can be used in a different way in education, and what you're forcing a student to do is to be able to articulate specifically what they're looking for in their imagery, which I think is a critical skill that might take some time to develop. And AI actually probably helps us develop that a little bit faster. Maybe not getting the image, but communicating what image we're looking for. So it's interesting. So based on this, how have your students responded to AI in the coursework?
I would say overwhelmingly students are interested and engaged. Again, interestingly, 3.5 years ago, when we started doing this stuff as educators here at Durham College, the tools operated much differently than they do today. For example, even generative AI video, it's come so far in the last 12 months. It's fast and furious, and I find that exciting. But students also find it exciting and terrifying. So, to that point, 3 years ago, very few students had ever used generative AI technology. Comparatively, I do surveys with students now, and almost 100% of students that I surveyed this year, this fall, had used generative AI tools in some capacity. So they're using it. And this is why I mentioned as educators, we need to train them how to use these tools efficiently, effectively, so that they're getting the prompts and generating what they want rather than just letting the AI model run with it.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I like that too, and really it is a skills change, right? Like part of it is teaching them how to still do the job they need to do and have the creative thinking that goes along with that, but also know how to kind of embrace technology. So with that, then their engagement, their learning outcomes, their embracing of the technology, how has it transformed? And I'm not going to say their outcomes, but them as students.
I think in a multitude of ways. So I'm going to pull out a prop here because I'm in a closet. This is a keyboard. And when we think of computers in their most basic form, a keyboard is a way for a human being to input to the computer to do something. And I think of generative AI in the very same way that we as humans are inputting,
It's
and
awesome.
depending on the tool that you're using, so say ChatGPT versus Midjourney versus Adobe Firefly, the end product will be different. But the thing I focus on with students is that we as humans need to input what we want from this generative AI tool. So I think students are excited. I think students are also they're curious by nature, but also apprehensive because when AI first came in to became popular, especially in post-secondary education, it was like, no, 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 you can't use Gen AI. No, 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 that's plagiarism. No, no, no. And depending on the college that you taught at in Ontario, that policy or reflection of how those tools could be used. I mean, even today in class, I reminded students, if you have an assignment that is difficult for you to understand, harness the power of AI. Ask it, please break it down. How should I approach this assignment? Say your please and thank you. And it does a very good job at opening up steps for students to approach when they don't know where to start. So that's another thing that I've been integrating more this term, this actual year. And again, if we show them how to use it and use it ethically, then and understanding what the ethical implications of each tool that we're using are, then it demystifies again how the tool works and the appropriate way to use it within the post-secondary school system. So
Yeah,
it's not cheating, it's just
no.
it's helping you learn. And I think that's a really powerful tool.
And so, based on that, then I grab that feed and you talk about the way they're using it. And I think about student projects, and I know you've done a lot of student projects. And I'm just wondering if you've got one that sticks in your mind as being overly successful or innovative with the use of AI that kind of defined the person's project itself.
So a couple, and I'm one of those educators that I like to try something new and fresh every year, as long as it's fitting with the program learning outcomes.
Absolutely.
And as the tools so drastically change so quickly, I think it's a really interesting way to experiment and see what the outputs are. So for example, I'll just give you a comparison with the film and motion design students last year. I gave them all the same prompts to put in. They could choose the tool of their choice. I gave them options. They got to select the tool they experimented with.
Awesome.
And it was really interesting because for me, not only as a tech geek, but as a researcher, informally, it allowed me to see what the benefits and limitations of each tool was. And so, for example, using a tool like Crayon, which is not that strong of a AI generating image tool comparatively to something like Adobe Firefly or
Right.
Midjourney, it
Right.
was interesting to see how similar the images that came out the other end were. We discussed that in class. So that was one example. That was last year. This year, I asked them to generate character. I asked them to generate a world. So a lot of them are into world building. So they were able to generate a character and then put it into a world that they've created and then create 3 frames. So that would be a duplication of something like a storyboard in
Right.
film or video. And so that I couldn't believe the caliber of graphics that the students were able to generate versus some of the tools just 12 months ago.
That being said, no road is smooth. So as you've gone down this path, what challenges have you encountered?
Well, I think often there's a paid firewall. So, for example, ChatGPT has paid or premium, and you find that with a lot of tools and software nowadays. And so I am just using free versions so that
Okay.
when I teach in the classroom, I'm not showing them something they don't have access to
Right.
without paying a paywall. And so I generally just focus on free tools. And again, that I find that very successful and that limits the potential of that backfiring when students say, well, I don't have a paid version of this piece of software.
Right.
So I would say that's one way to avoid pitfalls when you're integrating this or potentially integrating this into the classroom. Um, I think of a classroom as a reciprocal place of learning. I mentioned earlier one of the activities they were just chattering about world building. I'm like, okay, world building. Let me do some
Yeah,
boink
let me
boink
look that one up.
research, right? Like what the heck are they talking about? So I learn from them as much as they learn from me. And I'm open to that sort of relationship with students. They will try things in ways that we don't consider in our own mind. And I think that's what makes teaching so much fun.
Love it, love it. And so with that kind of forward-looking feel too, I got to ask that question that I like to ask, which is, what do you think the future of AI for education looks like, and are there any emerging tools or trends that you're particularly excited about in that future?
I'm definitely curious to find out more about generative AI in video and animation. I'm working on an applied research project with students starting in January, where we're creating our own learning models. We're going to be working with the MRC Studio, one of our centers for research excellence here at Durham College. And not only is this cool for faculty, but for students, this is cutting edge technology. And this is unique. There are not other institutions working on some of these projects. Some of the negative potentials that we often don't talk about is the environmental impact. As someone who is an environmentalist and as someone who is pays attention to my own carbon footprint, I think it's absolutely terrifying that we're potentially moving to nuclear technology to power artificial
Right.
intelligence.
Yeah.
I do have a concern over that when we see, you know, big companies potentially moving to that model. I think that's something to be concerned about. But other than that, I think there's limitless potential. Right now, I think the positives outweigh the negatives, but I'm saying that now in 2024, if someone's watching this podcast in like 2062,
Let's hope.
I hope so too, but they might be calling me something worse than, "Hey, boomer."
True, very true. And we're just going to capture that again. We're not boomers. We're Gen Xers, so we're good.
Those
Just going to
Gen
put that out there.
Xers. I love
All
it.
right. Well, yeah, I do have to share this too. I know you're joining the team. You're coming on board for the CTL. You're going to be the new Gen AI consultant. Welcome aboard on behalf of Jonathan and I. I'm going to speak for Jonathan, even though he's not here. But I gotta ask, why did you choose to do this?
Well, it keeps me out of trouble, Corey. In all seriousness, I think I have a different skill set than maybe some other faculty have been showcasing so far. And I think thank you for welcoming me, by the way. It's something that I've been hoping to do for a little while, and I would love to bring practical tips to faculty, especially on the image generation side, how it can benefit them as faculty members, as employees, everyone at Durham College. What I'm hoping to do is create some, for lack of a better term, workshops or
Good.
tutorials or learning bites.
Fantastic. That's amazing. Um, I guess that kind of brings us towards the end there. So I want to thank you for joining me today. It's always I always excited when I get a chance to actually talk to you because I always learn something so meaningful and new. So thank you for that. It's another successful day for me. Um,
It's a pleasure, and I love collaborating with other faculty members from across different learning areas. Often we get siloed into our
True.
teaching areas, and that's one thing that Durham has afforded me is the ability to meet folks like yourself and work with them in a meaningful way. And that makes it so much fun to come to work.
Fantastic. Excellent. Couldn't have said it better myself. So we'll leave on that one. To everyone listening, I hope that you found our exchange discussion encouraging and informative around AI. But as you heard now, Jen's joined us in the CTL. So if you've got any questions, if you've got any interest in this, you want to start exploring it, reach out to CTL and get some of mine or Jen's time to see how we can help you. Go with Jen if it's video or visual. And otherwise, until next time, be curious, be innovative, and let AI inspire your journey.